moving on to page 104 in your book, once you've assessed your training needs, once you've decided how the training will be designed, how will you test, in other words, those outcomes, how you deliver and how you test them, and then once you decide who will be involved in this, and in a sense, who will the instructors be, who will the participants be, how will this thing work in the actual delivery, then you begin to evaluate. Again, this is probably one of the most overlooked areas, but HR, who's in charge of training, really should keep tabs on this one, because this is basically how you justify your pay. We decided as HR that we're going to have a training for new employees. The orientation is going to be unique. We're going to borrow from other companies' orientation, maybe buy a package, have a designer, a web designer, redesign this thing just for our company, have it delivered through some type of professional services, so an video editing company as well can be involved. And so when we have all that cost and expenditure, the higher management is going to ask us, well, was it worth it? What did we get as a return on that orientation? It cost us X amount of dollars, and you can look at it as a cost-centered accounting approach. Per head, per individual participant, it cost us X number of dollars as a whole. So looking at then what higher management terms return on investment, you need to be able in HR, especially if you're a training director, to say, and here's what you got out of it. Here's the test. Here's the Excel training that we offered, for instance, and here's how many people can do better and work better, have more competencies using Excel. And you have measurements. You have from your assessments, you have data that shows that return. And you can translate, in a sense, individuals' improvement on a particular item like Excel into dollars, because obviously that equates to an efficiency. They become better at it. They, in a sense, the company gets more value for that laborer's per hour time or per diem time. So it's in a sense a simple accounting equation for ROI. So again, ROI is a cost-benefit analysis. What does it cost us to get these benefits that we can measure? Now, these are hard skills. These are testable skills, such as the training in an Excel program. We'll have a day of teaching everybody how to use Word or Excel. So those can be tested at the end of that and assessed, so that the return can be shown to the management as a dollar amount. But there are a number of non-testable skills, non-testable attitudinal studies, or trainings on appreciating certain aspects, like sexual harassment. Well, actually, sexual harassment, you can show a hard number, which is the more training you have, the less liability you incur. In other words, your lawsuits go down because of the lack of, or because of the diminished number of EEOC complaints filed. So, but so there are some soft skills, such as loyalty issues, appreciation issues that are harder to basically assess. And the book doesn't mention this, but in training we call them ROEs, or return on expectations. Return on an expectation of that you will appreciate, or you will do certain things that, whatever, is not really something you can measure out. You put it down as a part of what you do in HR training. You say there's a goal here that we're going to measure, but it's not something we can test on. It's non-testable. It's a soft skill in human, human interaction. The way that camaraderie is something you can train on, but you can't really measure those in terms of a cost-benefit approach. So you simply label this as a training objective, a return on expectations. We expect that individuals taking this training will appreciate this more, or will understand how to improve their interpersonal skills more, things of that nature. So again, don't stop measuring your training just because it's difficult. Just categorize it properly, so that those reading your reports and reading your assessments can understand where that training value does indeed lie. And again, don't overlook the assessments. That is one area that basically shows that your work is valued in HR. Another aspect I think is interesting that the book puts in here is, again, the issue of talent management. But I want to move into not so much the talent itself, but particular talent, that is managers. Because as I said in the earlier chapter, this is one of the problem areas. So one of the issues that I worked on as a statewide training director was succession planning for the numerous executive directors and their deputy directors across different organizations that we considered our clients. And one of the problems in leadership development, as I mentioned, is how do you basically follow up with it? You can decide we're going to follow a coaching plan or a mentoring plan. We're going to have trainings that are internal for our career track leaders, people that are in administrative leadership roles. We basically have, though, a problem of how do we keep track of this as a follow-up? Should it be HR? Should it be then the coaches themselves or the mentors themselves as the mentees work, as they do different functions? Maybe they share jobs with other people. They have different internal work and external work to accomplish as they move forward in the mentoring. Who follows up with this? As I said earlier, one of the problems with executive management, is they're concerned that the person following their footsteps in terms of the people they mentor, the mentee, is going to take their job. They feel like that in helping others, they might make their own position redundant. So, be aware of this. Do it before it's too late. Management training is needed. The book gives you, I think, some interesting ideas. There's a whole lot more. If you wanted to pause and just dig into this area, there's a whole lot more to learn.